If you take a Riley Black project trip to Disney, we can argue that. But
you want to come?
Yeah, absolutely.
Take it on the boat.
I'm on the boat. I'm on the Disney trip. See, this is what your accountant is for.
And welcome back to the Riley Black Project with Chris and John.
Hey.
Are you well rested from our vacation?
I want to yawn right now.
And we've, so we just got back, but this will be two weeks, right? Because we have one pre-recorded podcast now. This week.
That airs today.
It's out now.
And then one next week. Yeah.
So this one's next week.
If you listen to the Julie Ward episode,
that was right
John,
before.
Shot us in the foot. And
I said I had couple extra days to my vacation, so that if
just in case like something happens, like
a flight being canceled,
and I said, don't you dare speak that into existence.
And then we get rebooked on a flight the same day, and then the luggage, that conveyor belt thing is broken, and they don't have enough staff, so we missed our connecting flight in Atlanta, which meant we spent another day. We spent a day in Atlanta. Not even a day, like hours, because we got out of the airport at like 12.
We got to the hotel at 12.
At
12-ish.
Yeah.
And then
got like dinner at
1. We hadn't eaten pretty much all day except breakfast.
Right.
So we ate Taco Bell at 1 a.m. And then we had to be up at 3:30 to leave to go for our next flight. Yeah. So with 2 small kids.
Yeah, that was fun. It was really fun. And by fun, I mean miserable.
I was going to say fun is not the word I would use, but it's different F word.
Yeah.
Effing miserable, maybe.
It was a shit show for sure.
But sure. And, we've touched on a little bit about, the difficulties we've had with JR and stuff. And
those didn't go away.
And those,
he didn't take a vacation.
No, he did not. So that was, we had some tough moments, which, we understand to a certain extent, because like we weren't having a good time either. It just it just amplified, those already stressful moments when, we then now have to deal with what these stressful moments are doing to our kid who can't process emotions the same way, that we can or whatever. So, but we survived and
we got our 1 day of snow. Only one.
We did. And
it was the last one.
I don't know that I want to say that it was worth it, because that sucked pretty bad.
It was the cause of our delays.
It was amazing to see his face light up, and I got like some videos and some pictures of him literally just living his best life, throwing snowballs at you. And Jackson was loving it too. He was laughing even though he was like cold and like, why am I out here? But so it was a great trip with family and friends. It did kind of suck because a lot of people were sick.
There was so many people sick in Colorado.
The first day, so every time we go out there, we try to set aside Friday and Saturday night to see friends,
to have get-togethers.
And so like there's not enough time for me to go visit everybody, and there's a couple people that will actually go to visit them and stuff, just because that's what works best for them. But for the most part, we try to have 90% of the people come to us, just because it's so limited in time. If we tried to personally visit everybody, it would be like 4 or 5 people, and it's exhausting to drive around from like one place to the next and
get naps in now,
because now we have like naps for the baby and getting them to bed at a decent time and that kind of stuff. So Friday, the first night that we had set aside, there was like 5 people who either canceled or came alone because their family was sick or they were sick or whatever. So that definitely was disappointing. There's some people we didn't see at all because they were sick. So
some people we almost didn't see because they were sick.
Yeah.
Which was
exactly.
Kind of sucked.
So but I mean overall it was a great trip, but we're definitely happy to be home. We have a couple appointments coming up for JR, so I'm hopeful. That was its own shit show while we were out there. They weren't returning my calls or answering, my calls.
Yeah.
And
So we
then
decided to call from a different number. And
I
guess what?
called from John's phone
They
and they
picked up.
answered.
So
Yeah.
not saying she's blocked, but she's blocked.
Something, because yeah, and it's like it's not like I even went crazy yet. Like being blocked kind of caused me to want to go a little crazy.
Right.
Like again, I don't know that I'm blocked, but please give me another explanation.
Right.
As to why I'm calling and leaving messages and they're not being returned.
And then you call from
and then
my
I call
number
from a different number and they answer immediately.
Yeah.
It's just
a little concerning, but we'll get it. We have a third phone.
We have a third phone number that we can try.
We'll just go ahead and set appointments for the rest of the year on that third one, and then you don't have to answer a call because we got appointments.
Fine, don't answer. I just need an appointment.
Right.
I just need help for my child.
Us.
Yeah,
you're gonna see it.
You're not getting rid of me because I'm desperate and overwhelmed and want solutions.
But it was a fun trip. It was a really fun trip. Yeah. Seeing everyone.
We got some vouchers out of it, although it sucked. We got some vouchers that.
Yeah, I will say the airline was.
Yeah, don't give them too much credit.
Too well. Listen. It was the airport's fault, not the airlines.
That's true.
Which sucked.
But still.
But the pilots were out there loading the planes.
Man, that was amazing. I had to video that and huge shout out to those captains because it was cold and they're in dress shoes.
They're in their
pilot, co-pilot pilot jackets, which are just
then for inside the plane, not for outside in the snow. Yeah. So they were out there pitching in.
They didn't have to do that. I mean, I'm sure they wanted to go as much as us, but still. Yeah.
So they were out there helping. And then when we finally flew into Atlanta and we went to the counter and explained to them, what flight we were on.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, well, we're going to set you up in a hotel.
Right.
We're going to set these vouchers. Do you want your bags? Which that part was a little bit because we said, yes, we wanted our bags.
Yes.
And then when we went down to baggage claim, they're like, oh, no,
she didn't request
they didn't request your bags. So it's going to be 2 hours. So we had to go to the hotel without any bags. So that meant no change of clothes.
I slept in my contacts.
Right. No contact
Which
solution.
Definitely will change how I fly going forward. I mean, it sucks because I don't with liquids, you have to, a lot of times you have to pack those separately and but it will change what I pack in my carry-on for sure.
Yeah, that the boys didn't have
worst case scenario, we need to have what we need to make it through to the next morning.
Right.
And even maybe not the sound machines because they're not going to sleep well anyway. Sure, if we have the room, by all means, if we have the room in our carry-ons, but at least toothbrushes and toothbrushes and contact solution. That's really
and maybe underwear.
The main, and that's the main thing that I really wish, we
for sure
we would have had when we didn't have them. So and in hindsight, maybe we the time it would have taken to get our bags would have meant then we would have ran out of time to even go to the hotel and lay down. But it was frustrating to request our bags, wait in this long line to where we thought we'd be picking them up and to be told that it wasn't done properly. So it was just, it was.
And then the shuttle with the phone, on the phone, it says it ends at 11. It was already 11:30.
Yeah.
Call the hotel. It's like, oh, it's 24 hours.
No. Well, so I called the hotel and they told me, no, it goes until 1 a.m. And I was like, well, that's weird because on your recording, it says from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. It was 11:30. And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, no, it's until 1 a.m. And I'm like, well, why run it from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m.? So they get a 4-hour window where they don't have to cover anything. And I'm like, maybe they know something I don't know where there's not typically that many flights between that time or whatever. But we needed to head to the airport at 4 a.m. So I'm like, if it runs at 5, now we're missing both windows. And then we got to the hotel and they're like, no, it's 24 hours a day, every 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they I don't know if it was the van or how it was because you were looking at the speedometer, but man, it felt like they were driving on a course, a race car.
Yeah, they were only doing 50, but that was a fast 50.
Oh my god,
on that bus.
Yeah,
and then they were cramming people in there on the way to.
It was sketch.
Yeah, it was definitely a experience.
Yeah, but overall, amazing trip. But I am glad to be home to some normalcy.
Yep, it did spoil us because we didn't stay with family. We stayed at a hotel, which was fairly nice. I think if we do an Airbnb, that's going to spoil us even more
It might.
because we'll have we won't have to worry about them stomping around and making too much noise because of neighbors.
Yeah, that was a little frustrating because
yeah.
we were on. I think maybe if we go again, if there is the room that we need available on the first floor, just being on the first floor, because I'd rather that'd be a little bit better. Yeah,
because I mean the screaming wasn't that bad.
No,
it was more so JR running around stomping and everything. We're on the second floor.
We're like, please,
right?
I can only imagine how that.
It also didn't help that the reviews you read were the thin walls.
Yeah, and
so we
I'm
were hyper aware of that.
Of how loud.
There are people downstairs, JR. There are people downstairs.
Yeah.
So.
To a hyper 5-year-old.
But that was our trip in a nutshell.
Yeah.
We have a really good guest this week.
Yes. I've been excited about this one.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about finances. And this one's in person.
Yeah.
Which is
which we haven't had the luxury of doing too many of those. It was only our third one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So third in-person guest. Yeah.
Yeah, because we did the Emily
and then Eon Tech team, and I think that's all we've had so far.
In person. So it'll be exciting. So we'll go get her and we'll be right back.
BRB. Hey guys, thanks for watching and listening. If you'd like to support us monetarily now or in the future, here are a few ways.
You can join us on Patreon and reach out to us to run ads on the podcast.
For only $20, by the way.
Only $20.
You could also buy a file from my Etsy shop, some keychain accessories from my website, the course to learn some file designs, or explore one of my partnerships with either Eon or Pyburn.
Yeah, and you can find all those links on our Facebook group. That's the Riley Black Project.
Yep. To support us for $0 a month, you can share the podcast with your laser friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel, interact with our content, share, like, comments. What else?
And subscribe and leave a review on our Apple podcast. And then follow us on social media. That's Facebook and Instagram. The Riley Black Project.
Yes, we appreciate your support so much. We have big dreams of John joining us full time, and anything that you can do monetarily or for free to help us get there, we appreciate it so much.
And we're back with our live guest, Katie Gallo with the Gallo Group.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome along, and welcome to the party.
Right?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
What do you think about the studio?
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I love it. And my favorite is the balloon dog. Yeah, I need one of those. I need one of those for my office.
Amazon. And it comes in all the colors.
Yes.
Although you might go through like 15 before you get one that's not broken.
Oh, okay.
So that actually, not the pooping one.
Oh, no? That was the other one.
So the funny part is when we were setting up the studio and I was trying to get decor, I just got a regular red balloon dog. Well, the first one arrived broken. The second one arrived broken. The third one arrived blue. And then the fourth one arrived intact, finally. Yeah. And then I saw this one and I was like, shit, now I really like that one. And so, now we have a random red one on our bar. We have a blue one that we're hiding because I want to give it to the boys, but they're like wrecking balls. So I'd have to give it to them.
Oh yeah. If it didn't handle the trip.
Right. Yeah. No, it's not going to handle a 5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. Yeah. So, but random. And then this one was from Etsy. That one's my second favorite.
The Poor.
Yeah. That's so cool. I love it. I love it all. I love the aesthetic.
Illusion. Yeah.
It's the Riley Black aesthetic.
Right?
Yeah. Red and black.
Well, so we've talked about you guys a ton on the show, kind of indirectly, because one of the things that I really recommend to small business owners is getting accounting help, especially if it's something they don't know how to do, or in my case, I don't enjoy doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
And I kept, before I got you guys, I kept putting it off. And, 6 months, 8 months would go of the year. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And then now I haven't done anything. And it's going to take me weeks to catch up on everything. And I probably won't do it properly. I wasn't submitting quarterly taxes. I mean, I also wasn't accepting a ton of local orders yet. So that did kind of help. It wasn't like I was evading much tax, if any at all, but still. It was one of the biggest investments, I guess, that I made initially. It was kind of like not really my employee, but a little bit like the first thing that I outsourced for my business, because I just knew that I needed to take care of it. And the money was like well worth it at the time for sure. And it still is.
Yeah. It just saves you so much like anxiety because
tons.
it's a highly unknown area for a lot of business owners, because a lot of people, when they start their businesses, they didn't take extensive accounting courses or business courses or even at all.
Right.
They just know how to do their craft. So taking the time to delegate those things that you don't know how to do leaves you time to focus on your craft and not have to worry about those things. So so my name is Katie again. I work with the Gallo Group. That's our family accounting firm. And Crystal is one of our clients, and we love her very much.
And I have to give a shout out to Mindy. She'll probably be mad if I don't. But Mindy is the one who recommended me to you guys. And I'm so thankful that she did, because, it was a lifesaver for sure.
Yes, and we love Mindy too. And your industry is a really cool little niche of ours that we have. A lot of people, especially after the pandemic, quit their traditional jobs, wanted to look for something new, and started saying, hey, I really like doing this thing. I think I could make some money off of it.
Right.
I'm going to start my own business. So it was really cool to see a lot of people take that jump and make that step up between like something that's just like a hobby and a passion and you just enjoy doing. You're not making money. Maybe you accept some money from people to like zero out the cost, but you're not making a profit.
Right.
To saying, hey, I think I can make this something into profitable.
Right.
And it's a different mindset, and there's different things that you need to start doing. And if you're ready to do that, you will grow your business exponentially.
Right. And so we were talking a little bit before the show, you were saying how like when you take it from a hobby to an actual business, and when does the government think that it's a hobby, and when do they think it's an actual business?
Yeah. So the difference between a hobby and a business is a hobby is kind of something you're going to be engaged in, not for a profit motive. So it's because you enjoy doing it. It's something that people around you need, and you're not necessarily growing it. So that is not looked at as a business, not anything the IRS is necessarily going to care too much about.
Right.
When it's profit generating and you're making a profit, you are doing things that a business would do. You're researching and developing things. You're looking into the cheapest way to do things. You are marketing. You are looking into your clientele. Those are business driving things that you're doing.
Right.
So if that's where your head is, you're probably more in the space where you should register as a business and start following the rules, because not only does it protect you when you start to make money, it also legitimizes you a little bit more. People feel more comfortable dealing with a business with a name, with clout, and instead of just like someone they're not sure they're going to be able to really deliver on what they're promising.
Yeah. And so what are some of the first steps when you make that decision that you're going to kind of shift from hobby to business?
Yeah. So the first thing I would recommend doing is registering your business with the state wherever you live. You could do that with the Department of Revenue. And you can either form an LLC or a corporation from the start. LLCs are a little bit more loosely formed than corporations are. There's not a lot of rules in how to maintain them. You don't need to have meetings. You don't need to have a board. And what it really does for the entrepreneur is it provides protection. So when you're a business owner and you are just a sole proprietor, if you engage in business, no, you're not.
Yes.
You're an LLC though.
No,
you have an LLC.
No.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. I'm a sole prop. I'm an individual.
Okay, then we need to talk. We need to talk. We need to talk because you work mostly with my sister and my mom. So I'm definitely going to have to talk to them, because maybe I'm going to have to steal you.
Please do.
My main thing and what I really love to work with is making that transition to LLC and then even to S Corp. We can talk more about.
I did talk to your mom. I talked to her about the S Corp earlier this year. Cause we were growing really quickly and then the economy kind of went to shit and then like, so did everything else.
Mhm.
And so we didn't make that switch then, but it's definitely been on my mind of like what to switch to. But yeah, I started as sole prop just because again, I was at the time when I registered, I was exploring whether this could actually be like a business. And so
Right.
I didn't want the commitment, I guess, yet of, the LLC and all of that.
Mhm.
But I wanted to go through the route of actually, becoming like legitimate business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this will be helpful for you to hear that.
Yeah.
So for you to go from a sole proprietor to an LLC, there's
Mhm.
actually no tax difference in what you'd be doing.
Yeah.
So your taxes would still be reported the same. The self-employment tax would still be the same. So
Mhm.
there wouldn't be any additional taxes
Mhm.
involved in that. What the LLC does is it just provides you protection. So
Yeah.
say you're dealing with somebody who you sell a product to,
Mhm.
something happens, they want to sue you.
Right.
When they sue a sole proprietor,
They get it
they
all.
can come for everything that sole prop personally owns.
Right.
With an LLC, they can only go after what that LLC owns.
Mhm.
So that's why I always encourage when people make that shift, get all the personal stuff out of the business,
Right. Yeah.
start giving yourself a distribution or a
Right.
paycheck,
Mhm.
because that way, if anything happens, none
Yeah.
of your personal assets will be liable.
Right.
So that's what an LLC does.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily put you in a different
Right.
operating circumstance. You're not
Yeah.
going to really have to change anything you're doing,
Right.
but you're just protected.
Yeah.
And then once you're ready to go from an LLC to an S corp, that's like another higher level up, where
Right.
now you're required to file a tax return on behalf of your company.
Mhm.
You're required to take a salary as the
Yeah.
owner. So that's where I see businesses when they start hitting the revenues of like $20,000 to $40,000, like
Mhm.
net revenues after
Right.
expenses. That's when that tax benefit becomes comparable to what the self-employment tax is.
Right.
So that's where what I like to work on with my clients is like pointing out those opportunities and like,
Yeah.
okay, here's our goal to be here
Right.
and let's work toward that. But as far as just doing an LLC, it's really just for your protection and confidence that your consumer is also going to work with someone who's protected.
Right. Yeah.
And there's also a lot of opportunities that come from being with an LLC. Like you can open up your own business bank accounts.
Mhm.
You can apply for business funding. You can start
Mhm.
building business credit.
Right.
So, and it's a really good pathway to a growing business.
Yeah. I do have a business account now. That was one of the first things I did after I set up the sole proprietor. Because when we were just doing it from our regular checking account and I couldn't tell anything because it was all mixed in. I had no idea how I was doing, how much I was spending on materials or anything like that. So that was one of the first steps I made after registering. And it was great because it definitely helps a lot to have it just all in one place.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's what I tell my clients when they give me bank statements with a bunch of personal stuff on it. I'm like, this is none of my business.
Right.
I don't want to know any of this.
Right.
Like I always tell, because like my clients are always emailing me like, I'm about to do this. Can I pay for it with my business? And my answer always back is your business can pay for anything.
Right.
It can pay for a new jet.
Right.
For like you personally, if that's what you have the money for.
Right.
What the difference is the story it's going to tell on your income statement or on your balance sheet.
Right.
So when you're making a distribution to yourself, that has a different story than necessarily what taking a paycheck is or other expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So having the ability to look at your information and just know I'm getting the full story about my business is worth organizing all of your personal stuff out of it. Just figure out how much you need from your company each month, take it in a paycheck or transfer it.
That's something I need to do because right now, like as I need to, I'll pull from my business, but it's like, it's never planned. It's always just like bits and pieces. Right. And so that's one of the things I guess I want to like put in the universe of like a goal for next year of like, okay, I'm going to pull 500 a month or 1,000 a month from the business. And then that's what we use for cushions, elsewhere. Cause I mean, gosh, especially on this Colorado trip that was a lot more expensive than we really had budgeted, considering we spent $150 in like 20 minutes after we landed or an hour. Oh my gosh.
From the lift to the hotel and then to the car.
And the rental. And I was like, okay, didn't budget enough for that one. And so, and then also I realized halfway through our trip, we were doing a lot of DoorDash. And my business account was attached to that
Mhm.
because of the last time I went on a trip. It was a business trip.
Right.
And, so I had it like attached for that reason. And then I never unattached it. And then, halfway in the trip, I was like, oh, all those DoorDashes were coming out of my business account.
And how you can handle that is either send an email to us and say, hey, the DoorDash orders from this state to this state, throw to my distributions, or you can total up themselves.
Right.
And you can just reimburse your account back and let us know.
Right. Yeah.
So your business is yours.
Yeah.
You can pay for whatever you want from your business. The what I preach is just, it's better to build that consistency and that clarity of
I want that.
Yeah, like I know I can pull this much from my business each month to take care of me, and it can still run. It can still take care of my expenses and what I need to take care of. Taking this is no problem for me. So that's I like to kind of evaluate my clients' cash flow like that and ask them questions like, is your business doing what exactly it is you want it to for you? Like, are you finding that you're not walking away enough? It's not taking care of you. Are you finding your expenses are hard to maintain? You can't make the product or the service that you're trying to fulfill. I like to kind of look at finances like a story. Like I said, everything is kind of decipherable in the effect it's going to have on your business for you. So if you're not really getting a lot of customers and you're noticing like, I'm not really out there, I'm not getting a lot of outreach, look at your advertising budget. Are you spending anything? Is it nothing? Maybe you need to start reinvesting there. Or is it so high and you're not seeing what the effects are? You need to look at that and say, okay, I need a new marketing agency or a new marketing tactic. So that's what that does. That's, you send us your bank statements and we put in all the information, send you a nice report back and say, this is how you're performing. And it really helps you as the business owner know, are your goals working or are they not?
And it's a good time to it's more like when hiring you guys, not hiring, but when joining the group.
It's a partnership.
It's not just for taxes and for someone to deal with the you can check in periodically. And see like where you are. And maybe if you have plans to expand, have a meeting to see like, hey, can I do this? Is this a good time? Should I wait? Should I have done this 2-3 months ago? Like people could set up meetings and kind of talk about where they are and where they want to be.
That's what I love. I love when my clients
decipher the numbers too, because like we can get a report, but we can't sometimes we don't necessarily know what do those numbers mean? Are those good numbers? Is that a good average for the size and age of my business? That kind of stuff.
One thing I like to keep in mind about my clients, and what I think a lot of accounting professionals kind of disregard, is that my clients aren't accountants. So I need to bridge the gap between the questions you have about your business, the questions you have about your business and what you can do and what your numbers are saying about that. And you can't just ask me a question and I shoot an income statement to you and go, well, this is what you're saying, and you're going to understand what that means. I have to go, we have to bridge that connection for you, because then you're feeling more successful and more knowledgeable and more motivated. People are more motivated when they feel confident than going, oh God, I don't know what they're saying. I'm afraid to ask. And now I'm afraid to make a decision because I don't know what to do. So I'm going to keep doing the same thing. So that doesn't work either. So I know accounting gives the ick to a lot of people.
Me, I never really liked it, but it was just kind of what I always fell into. And then, I got the degree, and then I kind of hated it even more than I did before. I was 2 years away from being finished with my degree, and I had literally made the decision that wasn't going to be what I did with my life. And so it was a rough 2 years, because it was basically temporarily memorizing all that stuff just so I could pass the test and get my degree.
That's what testing is.
And and I couldn't so I didn't really retain any of it, but I knew enough of it to know that I wasn't doing it how I should and all that. So it was the best investment for me at the time, because again, even if I had retained all of that knowledge, you can't mess around with that stuff, because if you do it incorrectly, it could be pretty detrimental. So it's important.
There's kind of this misconception sometimes about accountants that you come to us and we create the information for you. We have like some sort of machine or some
Right.
sort of crystal ball
Magic.
that we can, you tell us what you want to pay in taxes or what you want to get back, and we can make that happen for you.
Right.
And that's just not what it is. We are glorified, like, data readers at best. Like, we are just telling you what the consequences of your financial actions are.
Right.
And that's the typical accountant. That's the role of what a standard accountant would do. Where I like to go that one step further is helping my clients now say, okay, how do we make it better for you though? Because I see the looks on their faces, or I see the deflation when someone's expecting a refund and they don't get it, or they weren't expecting to owe so much taxes and they do. Like, I see it, and there's ways to plan. Like you said, like, the accountant is not just for tax time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's for any time you have a question. You should be seeing, if you're a business owner, you should be seeing your accountant at least once a quarter to talk about how your performance was that quarter, if everything was going as it should.
Yeah.
So it's really just a valuable professional to have in your pocket as a business owner that I recommend everyone have. And you can have varying levels of relationships with accountants that are once a quarter. They just look at your stuff, they check you over, you can take care of all of it, or they're your full staff. So that's really up to you and what your needs are, but I definitely recommend doing it at the very least.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people in this industry, since, I mean, I've said it like a bunch of times, people kind of like work, in their garage or in their extra bedroom. So they don't feel like they're really a business. Even if they have a name, they have a presence on social media and they're selling, they feel like, oh, but this is just what I do at home.
Right.
Well,
and we feel like we have to do it all.
Right.
Like,
And then
you don't
like there's no help. Or you
don't
can't afford.
Right.
You can't afford like to outsource things. So they try to do it themselves. I think you should look into outsourcing, especially for something so important as finances.
Yeah.
Not so much to be like, I mean, yes, you want to be good with the government because they will come and get your stuff. But you also want to know if, you do want to grow. We all want to grow.
Right.
When we were talking about expanding into more of a media for me to edit and stuff, we set up a meeting to see like what that would look like. And then you guys kind of like set us in a course that we didn't think about.
Yeah.
Because we thought we could just branch out. We just do this and that. And you're like, oh, well, it's a little bit different. And this and that. And so you guys gave us a different pathway to do it, kind of, but still being within,
what you want to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. You just gave us a kind of a smarter way, I guess, to do it. Which is great because, like you famously say, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So
that's our mantra. We say that all the time.
Yeah. So it's good to check in and just have that resource.
Yeah.
And keep you straight with the government.
When I signed up, it was early on, but it was only $50 a month, and it's not much higher than that, for now, because I pay quarterly. But $50 a month, especially then, like to a small business when you don't have a ton of money coming in, that's a lot. But $50 a month to not have to think about that, and when you do think about it, you have like educated opinion behind it is it's priceless for sure.
Absolutely. And it just helps you in the long run. It helps you avoid things that maybe could be detrimental to you had you not known it from another person. And I liked the example that you said of the people who are working out of their garages or from their homes, not really thinking they're legit businesses, and they are entirely, and they have a tax burden if they're bringing in a profit. And I find people like that, they're either deducting nothing and they're not
they're not
you can
getting
miss
the
out
benefits
on
either.
The opportunities. Absolutely. We were talking a little bit about the 1099K things, and if you're registered on Etsy or certain things, you're getting a 1099K anyway. So once you get that tax document, for someone who's not so experienced, this might be their first year doing it, they may not think that's a big deal. They go, oh, okay, Etsy issued me, let's say, a $15,000 1099. Let me go do my taxes. Well, they'll find out there's a 15.3% tax on top of their federal income tax due with that, and be like, oh my God, weren't keeping track of any of their expenses and don't know how to get that balance down. So it's not only like you're not being kind of like sneaky and getting away with things. You might be missing out on massive opportunities as well.
Yeah, good point.
Your home deductible, like all that stuff, like just sitting in your home and making stuff to sell, there are deductible opportunities.
The fact that we like that we converted this garage
Right.
into the studio and we
then
use this
your-
square
and then
footage for
one of-
that, and
one of your room- one
the
of our
square
rooms-
footage of my office, and using the internet, and like all of those
Right.
things, like they're all used by the business. And so
Yeah.
you can share some of that cost, with the business, so that, it takes down that burden as well.
Yeah. And someone who does all their accounting and bookkeeping right now might be listening to this and going, oh my God, I have to deduct this. Oh my
Right.
God, I have to deduct this.
Right.
And this, and that is what an accountant will do for
Right.
you. They will
Right.
put those signals out to you and say, okay, have we considered this? And have
Right.
we
Right.
considered this? And I always ask my clients, is there anything personally you've done?
Right.
Have you made any personal deposits into the business, or any
Right.
personal expenses outside of here? I like
Right.
to capture it all. So there's
Right.
just having that person who's like, hey, we're going to do this and let's make sure we have everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are some, like, I guess, common mistakes or common things that people just don't think about when it comes to finances in a small business?
So a easy one to kind of get screwed by, but probably one of the easiest ones to maintain every year that I see people get hit with often is the renewing of the annual report. For Florida, it's SunBiz. So you'll get an email every year that says, it's time to renew your annual report. You go on there. I think it's like 136 and change to renew it, and you're good for the year. The problem is a lot of people don't read their emails, and they're not up on renewal dates sometimes, especially if you don't have a professional who's following up on them with you. And if you don't, at least in the state of Florida, if you don't renew your business license in time, it is an additional $500 to renew. And I've seen people say, I have to close my business down.
Yeah.
I'm not paying this
Yeah.
to renew it. So that's when I'm always like, make sure you're staying on top of that one, at least just keeping your business active, because that could be the difference in you paying hundreds of dollars to reinstate your business or needing to shut down and start a new one, which is also not fun if you don't want to do that. And another thing I would mention is staying on top of your deductible expenses. That's one thing I feel like a lot of people sometimes think they can kind of, especially with sole proprietors and LLCs, they file what's called a Schedule C on their tax return. So it's where you can report your income and all your expenses. And I like to call it like build a Schedule C, when like people will come in and they're like, I think I did this, and I think I did that. And it's like, okay, so this is not a real Schedule C that we're building. And I think they kind of hide behind the accountant of, well, the accountant's reporting this for me, and if they report it, it must be okay, and the IRS is not coming for me.
Right.
Not true.
Right.
The accountant is only the messenger. We have duties when it comes to certain fraud and approvals and stuff like that. But once it comes to what you are reporting on your tax return, we take what you say for we believe you.
Yeah.
So there's some people who are more liberal than others in what they will write off, and there's some that are more conservative, and I'm only going to write off what's for my business. And that is all very gray. Like there's not a rule for every industry. You can argue some wacky expense may be valid, and there is literally like what do you call it? Like a committee in the IRS that people go in front of and like argue crazy tax circumstances. And they will sometimes be like, yeah, no, this sounds good, legit, deductible.
Yeah.
So my philosophy with my clients is like, have you ever heard like, don't post something on social media unless you want your grandma to see it?
Right.
So I always say with my clients, don't write something off unless you wouldn't go argue it in front of the IRS.
Right.
So if you have something where it might seem kind of crazy, it might seem something like not a typical business, but you have a way that it supports what you're doing in your business, I'll write it off for you.
Like the Riley Black speedboat.
No, really, for real.
Yeah.
We'll start podcasting from the sea. And be like, well, it's a legit. I mean, we were podcasting at sea.
Yeah, and not only would that be an asset purchase to you, you would also take depreciation on that too. Yeah, it's a marketing.
Don't give him any
we can take the
positives to this.
depreciation on it. As long as I get free rides on it, I'm into it.
Yeah. So, what are some typical, I guess, deductions that maybe people don't realize our deductions, especially for a small business? What are some of the I guess the most common unknown deductions that someone can take?
Yeah, the ones I see people leaving off the table mostly are the home office deductions. They just think because they do something at home, it's not. And even people who have office spaces but also do work at home, they can write off that for that time that they are at home. It's figured on a formula, so it's not like all of your expenses are 100% written off. But if you know the square footage and the amount of time you spend there, your accountant will be able to figure that out for you. So home office for sure, and definitely like personal vehicle expenses, mileage if you're traveling for business, if you're someone your travel to your business place of business would not be considered deductible, but anything from your place of business to clients would be considered. So I always recommend people keep mileage logs because you can take a certain deduction. So you can either take the standard mileage rate where you get a deduction straight off your mileage, or you can take a portion of your actual travel expenses like your gas and any repairs to your car that you had to do. So I always recommend people track both. And at the end of the year, you can see which one. Yeah. If if the expenses are more, you can, once you choose the standard mileage rate, you have to keep that every year. But I like to see where the expenses come out. And I only recommend the standard mileage rate for people who are traveling for business. So like realtors are a good one to qualify for that. Anybody who does like outpatient work where they're traveling to patients, traveling to clients, I'll recommend that one. But anyone who's like going to one place, very minor travel, the actual expenses is always the way to go. That one for sure. Phone, personal cell phone usage, stuff they just buy on personal credit cards and don't even think to deduct it. You can health insurance for owners of S corps. Yeah, that is deductible. You have to do that a certain way. So it's not as just simple as your business paying for it. You have to do it through payroll, but there is no federal income tax on it. So it's definitely an incentive for S corp owners wanting to write off some health insurance.
Well, so I mean, especially for us when we eventually get him
that's one
home.
of that's one of the big hurdles that we have in making the shift from me working a traditional job to working for myself is that insurance. Because I mean, it's pretty expensive and you need it.
Absolutely.
You have to have it.
Yeah. That is definitely a huge thing. I'm working with a few of my clients now looking to offer kind of like alternatives to group health insurance because that's very expensive. So there are different kind of plans that employers can set up for their client or for their employees to give them like an HSA account or some sort of health savings plan that is not group insurance, but is still deductible to the employer and non-taxable to the employee. That's what the important part is.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to talk about that part more.
For sure.
It sounds like we're setting up a meeting soon.
I mean, we're up for our next quarterly. We haven't talked to him since May.
And it is true because when we walked away from that meeting, especially me, because it was my first one, you do walk away with a sense of empowerment and knowledge and a path essentially for if not the far future, the near future, so what to do until the next meeting. And you do feel empowered.
Because everything is ever developing. You're not going to come, at least what we hope for, you're not going to come into our next meeting with the same level of profits. And we're hoping that's growing. And we're hoping every time we're looking and reevaluating that we're checking off goals and making new ones. So that's always the goal is everything is dynamic and changing. So it's not just like one time, one check-in, everything's the same. Everything's always changing. Federally, things are changing. Things in your world are changing. So it's good to just be prepared for whatever happens.
So I have a business trip coming up next year. It'll be my second time, being at a laser conference.
Awesome.
And so what are some things that I need to think about when doing all of that with the business expenses and stuff
Yeah. So another misconception sometimes people have is when they're traveling for business, they feel like they can write off every single expense related to traveling for business.
Yeah.
Not necessarily true.
Mhm.
It really depends on the amount of the time that the trip is being spent on business.
Mhm.
So as long as the activity that you are doing is related to developing yourself in that business way,
Mhm.
that would be okay. So
Okay.
you're traveling to your travel for
Mhm.
sure. Like any travel that's related to getting you to the hotel that you're staying at,
Mhm.
to the convention that you're doing, getting
Right.
you back, that's fine.
Yeah.
Getting you to a restaurant where you're going to go meet with the speakers or
Mhm.
meet with the participants and have lunch and
Right.
speak about what you were
Yeah.
doing, deductible.
Yeah.
That meal, deductible. But if now you have this group of people, you guys are going to go do something fun,
Yeah.
you have downtime.
Right.
Say you're in Orlando, say the conference is
Right.
Orlando, you're going to go to Disney with everybody.
Right.
That Disney trip would not be deductible,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Even if
Yeah.
everyone's there.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if everyone's there, even
Team
if
building.
right. I mean, now we can argue that. Now, if you take a
Right.
Riley Black project trip to Disney, we can
Right.
argue that. But
You
just,
want to come?
On the boat.
absolutely.
Take it on the boat.
I'm on the boat. I'm on the Disney trip. See, this is what your accountant is for.
Yeah.
It's not all taxes.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
so an example was when we went in August. It's like it was almost from the moment I landed to the moment I left. It like there were some like fun. A lot of it, all of it was fun for the most part, but like it was all day at the conference,
Mhm.
and then we would all like go to lunch together, go to dinner together, and then we would all like meet afterwards as well we called it the Lasers After Dark, and we would meet by the pool and we were drinking and just hanging out and stuff. But like we were totally like talking about like work. Like one guy was showing me his cutting board engrave, and I was
Mhm.
like giving him tips on how he could like improve it and stuff. And I was surprised by how on that like 5-day trip that like it felt like 85% of it was like all business related.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, especially when it's those several day conferences too, it's not like, oh, like when we went to Colorado last year,
Right.
we scheduled one podcast while we were there.
Right.
Like, okay, yeah,
And we
maybe
were on a
that
show.
wasn't like a business trip, but we did business on there, and we did make sure to account for that.
Yeah.
And, put in like, I'm pretty sure we told you guys like we did, one day was spent with the podcast. This day was spent, editing and that kind of stuff. So we wrote off like a portion of that
Absolutely.
trip.
That's how you would handle that. Exactly.
Yeah. And then the August one, I mean, that was, if not 100%, like kind of just under it, because, every lunch, every dinner, every like thing, especially with us being part of the presenters, even if we weren't presenting in that moment, these people were still asking us like questions, advice, whatever. So,
and those trips were, probably everything you did was going to be deductible.
Right. Yeah.
Like when everything is geared toward like, especially for things like conventions.
Yeah.
But sometimes people will book a trip to like Puerto Rico and say, I'm taking a week to develop my new course. Right.
I mean, that's not a terrible idea.
Right. And it's fine. It's fine to do it. But that's when you would have to do like what you did in Colorado. You would have to determine the amount of time you actually spent working, and you would just do a percentage of those expenses. So your villa in Puerto Rico, partially deductible, 100%.
So I have some courses I need to work on. I think we might have a Puerto Rico trip in our
and having these conversations is good because we're talking about speedboats and jets and Puerto Rico trips, and your business is designed to, if that is your goal, if that's what you want, your business should be able to provide that to you. So
DJ Khaled lifestyle.
I am not like very much so. My only rule with like expenses is if you feel confident like backing it up to the IRS or like whatever your goal is, you feel confident that this is what your business needs, I'm here to stand behind you and be your cheerleader. That's why I'm really excited to be getting more into the profit first coaching and that cash flow management, because I just hear the goals that my clients have, and in my head I go, okay, great. Like what we just need to do is plan for that. And
Yeah.
I had a client I went to a holiday party for last night, and I started with them from the beginning. It was just them two starting a business. They just had taken care of the registration, and they were like, we want to bring you on so you can help us with the bookkeeping and the finance management and make sure our goals are good. And we hope to hire employees one day is what they said.
Yeah.
And it's been a little bit, I think around 2 years now. And when I went to their holiday party last night, I think they had about 20 employees there.
That's awesome.
And I just told them how proud I was of them.
Yeah.
And all of their girls were like, they don't really know me well because I'm the accountant and behind the scenes. So I'm introducing myself to them. And they're like, how long have you been working with the company? I'm like, since the beginning. I'm like, I've been here since the beginning. And it's great to watch it turn into this. And they made a comment and they were like, what's our holiday party going to be this year? Or next year, how are we going to top that? And I said, well, we can discuss that in our budget meetings. I said, we can, if you have a goal for a blowout holiday party at the end of the year to reward your employees and your customers, let's plan for that. How much you want it to be? 10K? All right. I got the plan now.
Yeah.
So you want the speedboat? You want the trip to Puerto Rico? Your business is designed to give you exactly what it is. And it doesn't we're talking about things that are kind of business geared, but it doesn't even have to be business geared.
Right.
You just need to make sure you have someone who is pointing you in the direction of profitability.
Right.
Working with you to say, yes, you're moving in this direction, or no, you're not moving in this direction, because a lot of entrepreneurs on their own don't know really how to tell that for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of us really at the core are just creative people. We're not necessarily we almost accidentally became entrepreneurs to a certain extent, either because life threw that our way or because we realized that's what we wanted eventually. But a lot of us don't really go into it with that mindset or have that kind of brain wiring to know okay, what is the next best plan for my business and my goals? How do I get there?
Right.
Yeah.
That's so true.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about was a hot topic that drove us Facebook group admins nuts was when the announcement came out about business expenses on Venmo and PayPal and those kind of things. And I was shocked by how many businesses were up in arms about how making sure to not put any kind of business related things in the descriptions and basically trying to avoid the taxes that they should already be paying on their business. We have one group that was on post approval, and there was a lot of them that we either before post approval had to comment and be like, you should be paying these anyway if you're a legitimate business, or that we rejected because it was repetitive and people didn't understand that it was something they should be taking care of already.
Right, exactly. So one of those things I like to highlight with using payment processors like Venmo and Zelle, they are not designed to be business transaction processors. It says that in all of their terms and agreements. And as a business owner, if you're accepting business transaction or business deposits with a personal Venmo account or a Zelle account.
Well, and Venmo business is new.
That just happened.
Yeah, it was just recently, which I signed up for immediately, as soon as it became available. But
so you're kind of taking a risk when you're doing that. But now there's Venmo Business, and they have that handy dandy little button on there now that you can mark for goods or services. And what that, I urge people I know a lot of people tell their clients oh, don't push that and put an emoji and kind of steer them in different directions. And what I kind of want to tell people on the other side of that is that buttons are designed to protect you. That if you check that off and you say that you're paying for goods and service, that protects you if you don't get that good or service. Because if you don't,
because if they don't deliver, there's nothing. They can't help you.
As far as Venmo is concerned, you just sent money to somebody and that's it. There's no business nature involved in it. So, if you're a business owner and you are on Venmo Business, you are on PayPal, what are some other ones? Square,
Yeah.
Etsy,
Right.
all of those payment processors are automatically giving you 1099Ks. They always
Right.
were before. That was always the case. And that's your income. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what to say to people when they don't want to report their income correctly, because that's, that's like I say, build a Schedule C. We're not working with real information, and that's not going to give you any good information to make business decisions off of.
Right.
Because if you're going to kind of build this income statement to pay the amount of taxes that you want, we can't have logical conversations about that, because
well, especially when you're basically hiding some income.
Yeah,
You're not seeing
I'm not
going to
tell you can make this expense if you're not showing it on the income statement, but oh no, I'm making this money. Okay, well then how am I supposed to know where that's coming from? Like then I guess I'm just going to have to trust you. So I urge people that, every dollar earned is a dollar with a tax implication, and you can either try to hide it and it's kind of inauthentic and it's not going to show your business and how successful it may truly be. Or you can just do it the right way, and you can plan for those taxes, and you can have an idea of the profits you want to walk away from and work toward that. And I think that's better. I think coming out of it, kind of knowing where you are is better. But another thing I will note about that with the 1099Ks, there is likely to be some issued in error, and Venmo payments to people, like for lunches or for just paying them for a ride, like anything that's like personal in nature to just friends, and you're somebody who knows I only use that's why, like, putting Venmo or emojis in the Venmo transactions is really not helpful anymore. You want to be able to tell people what that was for, just in case you are issued one in error, because those are not taxable. So if you are somebody who is issued one in error and you're like, oh my God, none of this was for business, this is all personal stuff, there's a way to rectify it, and just give the 1099K to your accountant and tell them this should not be taxable. They'll take care of it for you. But you need to be able to back it up. So that's the importance of record keeping. And, when it's for goods and service, market for that. When it's not, don't. Because you won't be.
Yeah, a lot of people were worried about, like, when they were selling, basically like garage selling, when they were getting rid of stuff from their own home, or they were also worried about it with business, because a lot of us like destash and stuff, and where those are different. Like if you're selling, I guess it'd be like if we're selling an old like playpen, that wouldn't be taxable. But if I am destashing like goods that I bought for my business, would that fall into it? Or
if it's something you're doing for business income, you would want to receive that as business income to yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, just because that's, that's something you want to track. It's something you want to put in the right box and be able to kind of make decisions off that information.
And does it make any difference, I guess? So a lot of times when we destash something,
what does that mean?
So that means, so like,
educate me now.
So say I bought 50 sets of coasters.
Okay.
And I pushed out, my coasters to my customers, and no one really ordered them, or only like 5 people ordered them. And now I have 45 coasters that I don't think I'm ever going to use. And I sell them basically for cheap.
Oh, so you're not making a profit off of
Potentially. Potentially. So like when I stopped doing watch bands, I literally sold off 300 plus watch bands, and I don't, if anything, I broke even, or I may have even sold it for less just to want to be able to get rid of them. How do you handle stuff like that? Because a lot of times it is for, there isn't necessarily profit. You're kind of just trying to lessen the expense, because you already paid for it. You're not going to use them. So you kind of want just something so that like, okay, maybe I was out 300. Now maybe I'm only out 100 because I sold them all for someone to cheap for 200.
You're on exactly the right track. So how we would have handled that is, okay, you purchased the coasters. We would have put that to your purchases, your cost of goods sold, because you're going to create a good from it. You have them sitting there. They're in your inventory. You tell us, hey, I bought these coasters for $300. I'm not selling them. I'm going to get rid of what I have for $2.
Yeah.
What we would do is just post that deposit that you made to that same cost of goods sold account, would reduce the account. So it would make your expense less, which makes your income more.
Right.
So you're paying the tax on it, but where you're paying the tax on it is because your net income is higher.
Right.
You're getting to take more home because you didn't eat that expense of something you didn't use.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, you have to accept it as business income.
Right.
But what I would do is just make sure your expense was reduced.
Okay.
So it still has the same effect, but it's not necessarily, you don't have to stress about it.
When I send you guys my statements and stuff, it's something that I need to make sure to include in like the email that I send to you guys. Like, okay, that $200 wasn't necessarily profit.
Sales,
that $200
you would want to know that wasn't your sales. Absolutely. Because it's not.
Okay.
It's not your main bread and butter. Selling coasters is not what you do.
Right. Yeah.
So we wouldn't want to include that as your sales because that would overstate that sales amount to you. You would say, oh, I had an additional 200, but that doesn't represent what your sales actually is.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I could improve on myself, is having more track of that on my own instead of just every positive is a sale and every negative is an expense, to get more into like the meat of it. Cause I've definitely stashed a lot of stuff and haven't indicated that was for this or that.
Right. Cause that just gives you more clarity because you might be, if everything's going to sales, you might look at that amount and be like,
"Ooh, I'm killing it."
Right. You might think, cause in your sales, your mind is what you do.
Right.
So, it would just help you divide that more. And it would help you say, okay, so my sales are this amount and my cost of goods sold. It would help you say, okay, so this is actually what I need to purchase to make my sales, instead of what if we would have kept that over statement in there, you would look at that and think, oh, I need to make this much in purchases.
Right.
Without knowing, oh, wait, I already sold back 200 of this.
Yeah.
So you would just be over purchasing again. It wouldn't give you really good information on really the amount you actually need to purchase for yourself.
Right.
So that's where that comes in handy for you. It just gives you a closer idea of where you actually need to be. And that helps you figure out things like, what can I take to pay for the things I like?
Yeah. Like buying your speedboat.
Buying a boat.
Red
or
and black,
jet.
of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have to stay true to brand so we can write off the trips.
Hey, if we buy our own jet, we don't have to worry about being canceled
at all
and missing a connecting flight.
Say less. I want to live like DJ Khaled.
Yeah,
I want that.
It's so funny. I asked him. I said, who do you like in business or celebrities or in life? Like, who do you look up to and like kind of want to model after? And like, I laughed the first time he said it, and he was like, he said, "You're gonna laugh at me." He's like, "But DJ Khaled." Yeah. He's like, "I want that life," and like,
and he's so positive.
He's positive. He has fun, and he's a businessman.
But he also works really hard.
He works really hard. But he also has fun, which I think is the main, like you have a business. So not only for it to pay your bills and everything, but for you to live life.
To have freedom and fun.
Absolutely. So, we're not on this earth to just work our butts off.
So we're half joking about the boat and the Disney and the plane. But no,
but it would really be nice.
But
only a little bit, because I legit would love to even go to Puerto Rico and plan my next course and
and if it's not the speedboat, at least like your car with your logo on it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, or something like. It doesn't have to be the huge thing.
Yeah, because we'd love to get our car wrapped. We wanted to get our car wrapped for the podcast.
Why are we killing ourselves in our garage in our workspaces and not being able to spend our money? I mean, or
have fun,
having the like stashing your money because you're afraid that you can't spend it because you have to pay, you have to save for taxes, you have to do this. Right. That's why having someone who's looking after your books is easy, because like, hey, look, you can play with this money.
We can tell you exactly how much it is.
We have your expenses covered. We have your taxes. This is play money, like do what you want to do, whether you want to pay bills with it or you want to take a vacation or whatever,
reinvest it.
We got you on this end, so go ahead and do what you want to do with this money.
You have exactly the right idea. That's what I do with my clients. I just tell them, here's what your income is, and I take away, because what a lot of people don't know what to do is you have your net income, but what money did you already take from that? in
Right.
personal distributions.
Yeah.
So a lot of business owners don't really realize that when you take personally from your business, you're taking directly from your profit.
Right.
You're taking from that number that's on the income statement, not the
Right.
number that's in your sales.
Right.
So I always am careful when when people come to me like, oh, we want to give our staff bonuses, or
Right.
we want to have a party, or we
Right.
want to invest in this new marketing initiative. How much money do we have?
Right.
I'm always cognizant to tell them, okay, your income statement is saying this, but you've already taken this in distribution. So if we're
Right.
looking at cash and you
Right.
still want to show profitable on your balance sheet, because your balance sheet is what tells your health of your business.
Right.
If you still want to remain profitable here, here's the number.
Right.
Not this number. Don't look at this number.
Right.
And definitely don't look.
Like, this isn't a free-for-all fund over here.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
definitely don't look at the number that's in the bank account.
Right.
That is the least accurate number.
Yeah.
Like, people will look in their bank account and go, oh, there's $20,000 in the bank account. That means I have $20,000 to spend.
Right.
Mm,
Not true.
right.
Right. So that's where your accountant really helps. They can
Yeah.
help you zero in on what you have, what you can do for it, what you can do with it, and what
Right.
it's going to translate for your business.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of information. If someone are you taking new businesses, new clients?
Yeah, we're
And-
absolutely taking on new clients for the 2023 year. I love working with small businesses like yours. Business owners who are interested in growing. They have really good questions. They have really big, outlandish goals. I love the
Yeah.
crazy goals. And we're also taking on tax preparation clients as well, and also profit first coaching. So look out for that launching in January. And
Awesome.
I'm very excited. It's going to
Yeah.
be really awesome.
And are you strictly to Florida, to South Florida? Can someone, like, I don't know, let's say from Chicago, reach out to you
Yeah.
guys?
Yeah, so we can work with anybody in any state. I always just recommend when sales tax gets involved that you can either inquire with someone from your state, or there's awesome programs like TaxStar, Avalara, who can take care of it for you. But I'm very, I will talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I will shoot you in the right direction.
Give
if it's
them
not
that
something I
direction.
can help
Yeah.
you with, I love to talk to everybody. So
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
where
Well,
can
we
people-
obviously highly recommend them.
Obviously,
so.
yeah. I mean, we're getting a jet and a boat.
Yes, yes.
And don't forget the Puerto Rico
We're
trip.
going to have
Well,
like
I
a
mean,
DJ
we need-
Khaled style
Yeah.
music video.
Yes,
We're going to
of
do it
course.
all.
We'll hire DJ Khaled. I just want to talk to him.
Right.
I feel like he would do it.
Have him
He's
on
that
the
kind of
podcast.
guy.
Yeah.
He's that kind of guy.
So where can people find you?
So we're on Instagram. My Instagram is katie.gallo. Or let me take it.
It might be
out.
underscore.
Underscore.
Let's
Yeah,
double
she knows
check.
my Instagram name better than me. Let me tell you what it is exactly. I usually have this written down before a podcast. It's totally
And we
forgot.
usually ask, but we totally forgot
but
to ask.
It's because it's in person. We're
yeah,
not
it threw
used
us
to
off.
we're used to like looking at a screen and having the whole pre-show.
Yeah, we were on a
Um,
podcast last night, and then they're asking us like, "What's our next guest, or what do we have coming up?" And I was like, "Oh, we have an in-person guest tomorrow." And John goes like,
I just stay quiet because it's live, and then after I'm like, "It's in person tomorrow."
which is a whole different level of
Yeah.
preparation.
I
and-
love
yeah.
So my Instagram is Katie Gallo _group. So it's KATIEGALLO_group. So that's my Instagram. And you can also find our website, www.thegallogroup.net. And we're also on Facebook, The Gallo Group Inc.
Nice. Well, and if you go to their site, you might see some pictures, or the Instagram. There's a fancy little sign in the background of some of those pictures. And myself and Tony, the guy that made the Kerf tool,
Mhm.
he helped me. We kind of collabed on that and made a pretty awesome sign
We
for you
love
guys.
it. It's
And
amazing.
every time it's in a picture or like a story, I'm like, we made that.
Oh yeah, it's totally in my background when I do Zooms.
Yeah.
It's always there, and everybody compliments it. Everybody's like, "Where did you get that?
Right.
What is that?" We always tell them who. We
Yeah.
send them your way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely the coolest piece we have in there.
Yeah. Well, and something I want to talk about offline, which maybe we can talk about again later. You do some networking and stuff too, as well, in local South Florida, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a goal for mine for next year, which is way outside my comfort zone because I have anxiety. I said it last night that wind gives me anxiety, which basically means everything does. But it's a goal that I want, just finding people who can help you do the things you can't do. And again,
Mhm.
you're supporting small business or other women-owned businesses, and more people again to reach out to us if they need something as well. So just
Yeah.
getting that relationship.
Yeah,
both
I love
ways.
networking. I like what you said when you're like networking gives you anxiety. It gives me anxiety too.
Yeah.
And like the kind of the old style networking where it's like you go to lunch and you sit around with people you don't know.
Right.
Like it's super awkward. That does not resonate with me very well,
Yeah.
but I have found a very good group of women
Mhm.
here in South Florida. The group is called Get Elevated.
Mhm.
I can send you the
Yeah,
information, and
definitely.
for anyone listening, check it out. It's a group of women-owned business owners and women entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And it's great. And it's very organic. It's more everyone kind of talking and helping each other with different kind of business, not issues, but just kind of like things we're feeling scared about, things we have questions about, really cool things we have going on to share with everybody.
Mhm.
So it's a really supportive group. And, not only just that group I have, but just other women and other professionals in my life. Don't be afraid to make those friendships. And if it's organic, it'll form right. And don't worry about having to go to the stuffy things.
Right.
Don't go to the stuffy things.
That does not sound fun to me.
No.
But like I also want to get out there, but then it's like finding that happy medium between getting out there, but then also something that really like fits with you and your personality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a world out there.
Yeah.
This business world. But once you find your tribe and your people to support you, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. We need to find him a tribe. He doesn't have like a business tribe.
No, I mean
really.
it's just really the laser world.
Yeah.
With like Heather, Emily,
Mhm.
we just kind of talk. I'm kind of like outside of the conversation and people who we talk with here, and it has been motivating to start my own, because I was never really, I mean, I had a few times where I tried to have my own production thing, but it just didn't work out. But I think it was more so of like you said, like the people around you.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. So I was like completely starting it by myself.
Yeah.
With no guidance.
With no like real plan. And it always like just failed, but partially never really took off.
Yeah.
For it to fail. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Those things are tough.
Yeah.
Those things are really tough.
Yeah. And also with the video world, people, have a certain like price and time in their head, which aren't realistic.
Right.
So because it's not like a Tumblr that you can see, so you see a cool video, you don't know what
all goes into it in the background.
Right. I can relate to that with accounting. People give me that too, because it's information.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want a cheap product, I can give it to you cheaply,
right,
but it's not going to look like what you have in your head.
Right.
Because that takes time and takes, stuff.
Yeah.
So
we could have a whole nother episode where we talk about like pricing together.
Yes.
Pricing your value.
We totally should, because I mean, that's something that like I still struggle with, 3-4 years into this. And like, recently I did 22 awards for a local Miami like food blog, and she's also become like a friend of mine. But then this last year when I did it, so I've done it for 3 years. She was one of my first big bulk like clients when I started my business. And I've been doing it, every year since then. And this year I was like, I think I'm really, really underselling myself. Yeah. And I just, all the work that goes into it, my brain does two things. It looks at something and it's like, oh, that's simple. But then it underestimates really all that goes into it. And then
what about everything else, all of your overhead?
Right. And so, I posted one of the awards in one of my groups, and I was like, okay, just how much would you charge for this award?
Yeah.
And it was 50% higher than what I was charging. And I was like, oh shit. Like I knew I was undercharging, but I didn't really realize like how much.
Yeah.
And so it's just things like that. Like, I need to be smarter about that with, because my time is so limited. I really need to be charging what it's worth so that I can also grow as my business too. Because if I'm charging 50% less on everything, I'm gonna be working my ass off for
just
half
to break
of the
even.
profit. Yeah. So, and especially since we have like big goals and stuff that we want to accomplish, getting my pricing right will be, huge in getting to that faster.
I can help.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can help.
So I think we should have like maybe not quarterly, but maybe yearly
Right, yeah,
podcast with you. Because I mean, this is
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
twice a year or something.
Yeah.
It was super
Yes.
fun,
Yeah, 'cause
and
this
like
is
it's
great
just very
information.
informative, even for us.
for us.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you guys taking away stuff as well.
Yeah.
Get yourself what would be the term? Accountant, a bookkeeper?
Yeah.
Yeah. So an accountant is more like tax preparation,
Mhm.
tax planning. You're going to want to talk
Right.
to an accountant. Bookkeeper is good for like your data entry, your
Mhm.
day to day. Some people are both.
Yeah.
Like me,
Right.
I'm an accountant bookkeeper, so I can take care of both. Some bookkeepers you may find don't do taxes or not
Mhm.
accountants.
Right.
Some accountants you may find are not interested at all in doing bookkeeping.
Yeah.
So you have to find the professional that works for you because
Yeah.
there's some people who do their own bookkeeping who are
Right.
like, okay, I don't need someone to take care of that.
And
There's
then
some
they
people
just use somebody for taxes or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's some people who want to offload it all. So yeah, find
Get
what
yourself a
works for
financial
you.
team.
Yeah,
Right, yes, there you
exactly.
go.
Get yourself a
Financial
financial
team.
team.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for spending some time with us here
Of
in the studio.
course.
Thank you guys for listening as always, and get yourself a financial team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
It's been another great episode of the
Bye.
Riley Black Project with Crystal and John.
Bye.
Maybe we're all done.